Welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 109. Here I am back in Uvascula, doing the tour for the week. I think I have some daycare Christmas parties to attend and things like that, but still doing the shows, trying out new video techniques on episode 108 and 109, so you might see those. Let's see how they go. And, what else is new? Big announcement coming this weekend. This might actually not air until the announcement's already over, but you can check out a live stream on Saturday or Sunday of me and Josh talking about our new project. This morning I was walking into work and I was kind of planning out how it is that I'm going to change my coaching tactics with the advent of the new drilling system in League of Legends, so the kind of the sandbox mode. I think there's tons of potential there that's going to be realized by coaches all across the world this year. And yeah, why don't we dive into it? Okay, first question comes from Turtler_, and they ask, I'm studying Japanese in college. It's elementary level. I'm comfortable with the vocab, but my talking speed is choppy. Any advice? Choppy talking speed, you want to think of it, language skills as like 4 skills, right? You have consumption and production, and then it's listening, speaking, reading, writing. Those are all really kind of discrete skills. So if you want to get better at one, you focus on training that particular one. You can either go the roundabout way, so you just ignore it and you do tons and tons more consumption and it will come along based purely on volume, or you train it specifically, meaning that you do what I did, which is I went to, I think, a website called smart.fm or iknow.co.jp, IKNOW, and they just have loads of complete sentences with native speaker overlay on top of it, and I just hit play and then I tried to speak over the native speaker at the same time I was listening to it in my earphones at the same exact speed with the same cadence with the same tempo and I would repeat the sentence 10, 15, 20 times until I had the pronunciation and the cadence and the song correct. And then I would do it with the next sentence. And that's how I developed my singing voice, which is like, language is like singing. When you're speaking a sentence of a language, you're leaving out a lot of different sounds that are written there. You have high pitches and low pitches, and there's all these things that are kind of not there in the written word, that are there in the spoken word. And so you have to include all that if you want to sound like a native. So get a native speaker, overlay your voice on top of them until you have it perfect, and then go to the next one. And you can use a program called Anki SRS to do that, ANKI SRS. They have downloadable decks with audio, and you can just hit play while listening and overlay it. Okay, next question is from Lucy Lamb Dunk, and they ask, as a jungler, some games I do very well, others I do nothing that is impactful. How do I stay consistent? I think this is a misjudgment of what you're measuring yourself on. So you're trying to measure yourself on an emotional scale, and then asking how do you stay consistent in a game performance mode. So I want you to choose one. If you want to be emotionally consistent, satisfied with your game every single time, then you're working on internal satisfaction. Like how happy are you with life? How happy with your game? What do you take joy in? How do you find the climb? Those kind of things. If you're talking about gameplay, you're measuring the wrong thing. Your satisfaction with how the game went, how you felt about how you impacted it. You need to measure very specific variables in the game, such as how often you impacted a lane concretely. Look through the replay and just count. See exactly how far behind the other jungler you were. See what the other jungler did. Measure yourself up to them and count actual statistics that are not represented in the post-game screen. And try to figure out what does impactful or not impactful mean in terms of actions, behaviors in the game. And then you can measure those, and then you know the answer. Okay, third question is from Maswiecho, and they ask, should I roam as Azir or stay and hit the turret? Is there any other champ in the game who should stay instead of roam? I think that Azir struggles to move sideways through the map. I think they work best when they're kind of set up in an area, and they use their mobility offensively or defensively, with their soldiers already prepared. You should definitely roam, but you should do it in a roam timer when you're ahead of your mid laner, and when you know the jungler is not going to pinch you in between your opposing mid laner and him, because those kind of fights can go not well. I would recommend, if they roam, then you either counter roam the other direction or stay and take the turret, because you can do a phenomenal job with Azir, in which case you need to call your team off, say back up, I'm not coming. Or you proactively roam, which means that you get the push, so you are managing to keep them off of the wave while you're clearing it, and then you can take that opportunity when they're catching at their turret to kind of disappear into vision on one side of the map and the other. And you should do that when you know where their jungler is, so that you can apply pressure on the other side of the map in a numbers advantage. Other mid laners that do that, like all of them. You have roaming mid laners that are really good at skirmishes in the jungle, like Rise, where if you get pinched by the jungler and the other guy, you can get into a duke out fight and your team can join late and you can do all sorts of interesting things. With snares and whatnot on low cooldowns. And then there are mid laners that you don't really want to get into those kind of skirmishes in the jungle. Like Annie, where two people coming from both sides is kind of a little bit, what are we going to do? I would say know your mid laner and know whether you want to proactively roam into lack of vision, and what worst case scenario you run into their jungler or their support, like what's going to go down. Can you kill them in one shot? Is it going to be a protracted fight? And then you just change it. If you're not on one of those proactive, I'm going to go into the darkness junglers or mid laners, then you have to create your own roaming opportunities or counter roam the other direction. I think most AD mids can stay and hit the turret, and then Azir can. I think the other ones, if you stay and hit the turret and expect your team to win the game for you, you're kind of doing it wrong. If the mid laner is making a play, the opposing mid laner is making a play, and you're not, they're winning. Don't let them make that play in the first place, or make your own play in response. Don't just chip the turret and be like, don't die to their play, team. The next 3 questions are brought to you by my Snapchat and Instagram channels. Please follow them. Check it out down below, or to the side, or wherever it's going to link. My Snapchat, my name's Weldon. I probably use Snapchat way more than Instagram right now. I think it's just an easier app to use, and I like it more. I like the brand more, and it's more fun. That is where I spend most of my time. I try to reply to every single conversation. I have open snaps, just like I have open DMs on Twitter. And then my story, you can follow along kind of the esports life of what it is to be a high-performance coach, and to work on the projects that I am working on, which are essentially related to amateur esport and esport for youth development, which is my passion. On Instagram, I'm trying to figure out Instagram stories, like how I'm going to use that still, because I mostly just do Snapchat. But Instagram, obviously, I post way less. I just put pretty pictures there, and you can see what I'm doing there. Make sure you check that out. Okay, 4th question from JT Morris 96. How do I relearn League of Legends properly? I played 2K ranked games per season during high school to escape reality, but only peaked at Diamond 2. You played the games, you didn't train the games, right? So you ingrained good habits, bad habits. You peaked at Diamond 2, which is pretty freaking good, and that means your raw instincts are correct, and you have, the essential skills just automatically to climb. And so I would say if you want to train it, then you need to break down your play to a skeleton and layer it back up. And you do that by questioning everything that you're doing and focusing on one habit that you want to change, and just being merciless about not letting yourself violate your new rule of what you're doing with that habit. And then you try to keep that habit in place while you're doing the next one. Okay, so don't let it slip while you're doing the next one. Don't make an excuse of moving on to the next thing to slack off in the old habit. And you'll gradually be able to accommodate more and more variables in your play as you layer them up, and they'll become automatic and they'll pass out of your conscious concentration, but they will still exist if you're merciless about not letting yourself fall off the horse in your training. I would say look at a bunch of VODs, pick out the next level up habit that you need to be doing that you see pros doing that you just are not. And if you can't figure that out, go get a coach at League Coaching, LOL-coaching.com, and they can try to figure out what the next step is on your way. If you can't go from Diamond 2 to Challenger 1, you need to go from Diamond 2 to Diamond 1 or to Masters. Then you can figure that out. Usually a coach who's taken that route can say oh, the next step looks like this, and then you can figure out those moves. Okay, the 5th question from Lol Komodo. They ask, what's the best everyday routine for becoming a League of Legends pro player? How many hours of practice for mechanics or game knowledge, etc.? This is such an individual question that requires complete context on you as an individual, because I could give the best routine to become a low player to somebody and they would never ever become a League of Legends player, and I could give you Alish, so Freeze's routine, and you would be like, that would never get me pro, and he became pro in 12 weeks. The best routine is one where you are measuring your progress and making consistent progress all the time. And when you plateau, you're finding a way to break through it really swiftly. And a realistic one. So you need to map out, what your time frame is, and try to figure out how to just basically make sure your motivation is really strong when you're playing. I think the worst thing that you can do is overplay when you're not actually ready to focus on improving. I got way better on 2 games a day than I ever did on 10 games a day. Literally way better on 2 games a day that I fully invested in with all of my force of life and like study and preparation and VOD review and everything. I climbed all the way to Diamond on that. And previous to that, I played like bucket tons of League of Legends like all day long, and I never got out of silver. Okay, so the best routine is to find a way to be full focused in the games that you're doing, and always have a plan. Go in with a plan into every single game. And whatever routine you have that you in your life that you can use to maintain that depends on the context of your life. It was different for me because I was a father. It's going to be different for you if you're at high school, if you're college, if you're whatever. So there's no optimal answer. There's just the best answer for your life. Final question. Nazenhajg. Nazenhajg. Nice name, dude. If that's actually a real name, I feel really bad now. Anyway, if a player cracks on stage or under other pressure, are they a lost cause in your book? Is that sort of thing teachable? Of course it's teachable. No, they are not a lost cause. That's the whole thing that I do. That's what coaches do. That's what your whole performance life is about coping with more and more pressure. I don't really know what else to say. It's teachable. It's trainable. It is what performance is all about. It is what you learn when you're a performer. It is why high-performance athletes are often very successful at the next thing that they do, because they can cope well with pressure, not because they were born that way, but because they learned it through doing high performance and having that pressure and coping with it. Okay, that's the show for today. Make sure to check out my Weldon's list. What I was working on before the show and after the show, I was working on the list. I have this kind of like curated experience of writing, some best of lists from my emails, from my website, from my books, my best videos, a training course that I had on the site from years ago that I worked on a video editor to create that has like 3 training videos. All of that, starting from square one, and then an email from me, every couple weeks updating you on what's going on with my brand and my website. That is where I recommend that you start with most of your questions. Most of the questions that I have in the show are actually answered in that list if you read it. And it just comes to your phone, and you can read it on the bus or when you're walking to school or in class when you're bored. And there's a link down below. It takes you to Weldon's list. Just sign up there, and you'll start getting it. And then the second link is to the MAC program, which is my training program. Most of the other questions that are not answered by the list can be answered there. You need this program if you want to reach the peak of your performance capabilities in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's studying or esport or sport in general. Being aware of what is driving you and your surroundings and committing yourself to a course of action is essential to that rapid growth, and that's what the MAC program trains. It's an online course, 47 videos, so about 7 weeks if you do a video a day, which is what I recommend. Actually, I recommend like 4 a week, so it's going to be a little bit longer than 3 months. But check that out, and then the final link is the 5-minute journal, which is a short, sweet little tool that I have found has the most amount of impact for the least amount of time invested in my life of anything that I've ever used. And so I recommend it strongly, and I use it with every team that I coach. You don't have to buy it. You can just go to their website and check it out, and you can start doing it now, today, without having purchased anything. But also you can buy this really pretty book that they will ship you, and you can write it in the book, and you can be all fancy about it. I just literally wrote it in Google Drive. Good luck, guys. I'll see you next time.